The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour looked polished, playful, and safely controlled when The Who took the stage in 1967. But the final blast during My Generation was not a planned television effect. A hidden charge exploded with far more force than expected, injuring musicians and stunning host Tommy Smothers. CBS still broadcast the performance 2 days later, preserving reactions that could not be acted. Yet the explosion was only one unfiltered moment in a much larger fight behind the cameras. On Sunday, February 5, 1967, CBS placed the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in one of television's toughest time slots. It aired at 9 p.m., directly against Bonanza, the powerful NBC Western that had finished the previous season as America's highest-rated program. CBS was taking a measured risk. Tom and Dick Smothers already had a familiar act built around folk music and brotherly arguments. Dick played the calm, sensible musician. Tommy acted confused, interrupted songs, and complained that their mother liked Dick best. The humor seemed harmless enough for family television. The network also hoped the brothers could attract young viewers who had little interest in Bonanza. That plan worked better than expected. Nielsen Records placed the program at number 16 during the 1966-67 season, with a 22.2 rating. And EBSCO television history reports that the show later captured a 36% share of the audience and, at its peak, moved 10 percentage points ahead of Bonanza. The guest list helped create that success. Established performers such as Jack Benny and George Burns appeared beside younger musicians and comedians. Viewers could see familiar entertainment one moment, then encounter the changing culture of the 1960s in the next. The brothers looked traditional, but the writers behind them included young voices such as Steve Martin, Rob Reiner, Bob Einstein, and Mason Williams. That mix gave the program an unusual power. Older viewers saw two polite men wearing matching suits. Younger viewers heard jokes about war, politics, race, religion, and the generation gap. The differences were hidden inside comedy, which allowed difficult ideas to enter American living rooms without sounding like a speech. Should CBS have allowed the brothers complete creative freedom, or did a national network have the right to set limits? Share a view below. Success did not protect the program. According to the Television Academy, the first serious censorship dispute arrived in April 1967, only about 2 months after the premiere. CBS removed part of a sketch in which Tommy and Elaine played censors cutting harmless words from a script. The joke had targeted censorship. Then CBS censored the joke itself. Tommy later displayed the altered script on camera, quietly turning a private disagreement into public comedy. That small act exposed how little control the brothers actually possessed, and it marked the beginning of a fight that would soon move far beyond missing punchlines. On September 15, 1967, The Who entered a CBS studio in Los Angeles to record its first major American network television appearance. The episode would air 2 days later, on September 17. By then, the British band had developed a reputation for loud performances, smashed guitars, and controlled destruction. The group performed 2 songs. The first was, "I Can See for Miles," followed by, "My Generation." Much of the music was pre-recorded, but the physical energy on stage was real. Pete Townsend attacked his guitar and amplifiers while drummer Keith Moon kicked through his drum kit. It looked chaotic, yet most of the ending had been planned. The explosion was supposed to be controlled. A small charge placed inside Moon's bass drum would create a bright flash as Townsend destroyed his equipment. According to accounts collected for the 1979 documentary The Kids Are All Right, the effect appeared too weak during rehearsal. Members of the television crew and people connected to the band then tried to make the final blast larger. The exact amount of explosive material remains disputed. Some reports claim Moon used 10 times the approved quantity. Other accounts describe 3 separate charges placed inside the drum. Neither number can be confirmed with complete certainty. What the surviving footage does confirm is that the final explosion was far stronger than the people closest to it expected. The blast filled the stage with smoke. Townsend's hair was singed, and the sound temporarily damaged his right ear. He later connected the incident to his long-term hearing problems, although years of extremely loud concerts also affected his hearing. Moon suffered a cut when part of a shattered cymbal struck his arm. Singer Roger Daltrey moved toward Moon while Townsend continued destroying equipment. The studio audience first screamed, then applauded, uncertain whether the injuries were part of the act. History's account of the performance states that the explosion briefly disrupted the broadcast production itself. Tommy Smothers then walked onto the damaged set. He had been prepared to close a musical segment, not inspect the result of a real blast. Townsend suddenly grabbed Tommy's acoustic guitar and smashed it as well. Tommy stood beside him, visibly shaken, but still trying to keep the program moving. The musicians had planned to leave broken instruments behind. They had not planned to leave the host searching through smoke to see whether anyone had been seriously hurt. The most revealing part of the footage begins after the smoke starts to clear. Tommy Smothers steps toward the band with an acoustic guitar in his hands. His face is tense, and his eyes move across the stage as he tries to understand whether anyone has been seriously injured. Townsend then takes Tommy's guitar and smashes it against the floor. Tommy does not react like a performer reaching a planned punch line. He looks confused because the guitar was not supposed to be destroyed. Years later, he explained that his attention was on the people around the drum kit. He was looking for injured bodies, while the cameras continued recording. The performance was taped on September 15, 1967, and broadcast 2 days later. CBS therefore had time to remove the accident or shorten its aftermath. Instead, the network aired the blast, the injuries, Townsend's final act of destruction, and Tommy's stunned response. That decision is the reason the scene is often described as an unedited blooper. The label is only partly correct. The Who had planned to smash its equipment. A controlled explosion was also part of the ending. What had not been planned was the force of the blast, the cymbal fragment cutting Keith Moon's arm, the damage to Townsend's right ear, or the destruction of Tommy's guitar. Claims surrounding the scene grew over time. One story suggested that guest Betty Davis fainted into Mickey Rooney's arms after the explosion. Turner Classic Movies notes that Tommy later denied this account. The real footage was already remarkable, but repeated stories made it difficult to separate visible evidence from television legend. The scene gained a second life in 1979 when it opened The Kids Are Alright, a documentary about The Who. More than 12 years after the original broadcast, viewers could study Tommy's expression again without relying on memory. For more investigations separating famous television myths from documented facts, subscribe before the censorship battle begins. The footage preserves something rare, the exact point where a staged act became a real accident. But CBS was far less willing to preserve moments involving politics, war, and the network's own power. That difference would soon place the Smothers Brothers in a conflict no editing room could quietly contain. CBS could tolerate broken instruments more easily than political criticism. The network broadcast The Who's dangerous explosion, yet it repeatedly removed words, songs, and images that challenged American authority. The first major dispute had arrived in April 1967. Tommy Smothers and Elaine May performed a sketch about television censors removing harmless words from scripts. CBS then cut part of the sketch about censorship. Tommy responded during a later broadcast by showing viewers the altered pages and joking about the innocent words the network had rejected. The disagreement became more serious during the show's second season. Folk singer Pete Seeger appeared in September 1967 and performed "Waist Deep in the Big Muddy." The song describes soldiers following a reckless captain deeper into dangerous water. It never named President Lyndon Johnson or the Vietnam War, but its meaning was clear enough for CBS. The network removed the performance before broadcast. Letters and news coverage followed. CBS eventually allowed Seeger to return, and the song aired in February 1968. That reversal showed that network decisions were not final when public pressure became strong enough. It also encouraged the show's writers to keep testing the limits. The next season brought stricter controls. CBS ordered the producers to deliver each completed episode 10 days before its broadcast date. The network said affiliates needed enough time to inspect controversial material. Tom Smothers believed the rule gave executives more time to cut anything that made them uncomfortable. In September 1968, CBS removed an entire performance by Harry Belafonte. He sang, "Lord, Don't Stop the Carnival," while images from the violent 1968 Democratic National Convention appeared behind him. Police had clashed with protesters in Chicago only weeks earlier. The segment linked cheerful music with scenes of real force, making the contrast hard to ignore. According to the Television Academy, the brothers' disputes with CBS covered war, religion, political leaders, and even ordinary words. Each removal damaged trust between the producers and the network. The issue was no longer whether one joke had gone too far. Both sides were fighting over who controlled the meaning of the program. Has a joke, opinion, or honest statement ever caused trouble because someone in authority disliked it? Share that experience below. The conflict reached its most dangerous stage during Season 3. CBS had renewed the show, the ratings remained valuable, and another episode was nearly ready. Then a disputed tape failed to reach the network by its deadline. Inside it was a religious routine CBS had already warned the brothers never to repeat. On March 14, 1969, CBS renewed the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour for a fourth season. The decision appeared to prove that ratings and public interest had outweighed the arguments behind the scenes. Only 21 days later, that promise disappeared. CBS canceled the program on April 4. Network President Robert Wood said the brothers had failed to meet contractual deadlines that required completed episodes to arrive early enough for review by CBS and its local stations. He also said the producers would not accept the network's standards of taste. Tom Smothers rejected that explanation. He argued that the delivery dispute gave CBS a formal reason to end a program it had been trying to control for months. The timing supported his suspicion. The show had just been renewed, and the cancellation followed repeated fights over anti-war songs, political images, religious jokes, and comments about government leaders. The final dispute centered on an episode planned for April 13th, which was Easter Sunday. It included comedian David Steinberg performing one of his religious sermonettes. An earlier Steinberg routine, recorded in October 1968, had presented Moses through modern political satire. According to television histories, that appearance produced hundreds of complaint letters. CBS had warned the brothers against bringing Steinberg back for similar material. They did it anyway. The new episode also included Nancy Wilson, Dan Rowan, Teddy Neely, and jokes aimed at rules governing television. One segment addressed Senator John Pastor, who had pushed broadcasters to keep programming suitable for family audiences. Viewers in the United States did not see that episode as scheduled. Those who turned to CBS on April 13 found Hee Haw in its place. However, the tape had already been sent to Canada, where CTV broadcasted beyond the reach of CBS's American schedule. That detail mattered. The program was not lost, unfinished, or technically unable to air. A complete version existed, and Canadian viewers had already watched it. American audiences had to wait 24 years. In 1993, the Entertainment Network finally showed the episode with new introductions from Tom and Dick Smothers. Remind magazine reports that the episode ended with Tommy speaking about difficult times and honoring Martin Luther King Jr. The quiet closing made the long band seem even stranger. It contained no explosion and no physical danger. Its threat came from ideas, satire, and the refusal to obey quietly. The cancellation ended the brothers' control of the program, but it did not settle whether CBS had acted legally. Hidden inside contracts, production bills, and delivery records was evidence that would force the network to defend its decision in court. The Smothers Brothers responded to the cancellation by taking CBS to court. Their production company filed legal actions in September 1969, arguing that the network had violated its contract and improperly ended the series after approving another season. The dispute lasted roughly 4 years. It was not a simple courtroom battle over free speech. The case also involved delivery deadlines, production expenses, canceled programs, and money CBS had deducted from payments owed to the brothers' company. Federal court records show how detailed the financial dispute became. CBS charged more than $173,000 against a $420,000 production payment. That total included cable rental, legal costs connected to another program, and other expenses. The court examined whether those charges were permitted and whether CBS had followed the agreement when it canceled the series. On April 6, 1973, the court ruled in favor of the brothers in the contract dispute and ordered CBS to pay $776,300. The judgment did not declare that television performers had unlimited First Amendment protection from private networks. Instead, it showed that CBS could not escape its contractual duties simply because its relationship with the producers had collapsed. The program's influence continued after the lawsuit. Across only 3 original seasons, it had introduced national audiences to younger musicians, new comedy writers, and political satire that treated viewers as capable of hearing difficult ideas. The 2002 documentary Smothered Later examined the censorship battle through interviews and surviving footage. Tom and Dick eventually worked with CBS again, including a 20th anniversary special in 1988. The reunion did not erase the earlier conflict, but it showed how television institutions often return to ideas they once considered too dangerous. Tom Smothers died in December 2023 at age 86. By then, the program was remembered less as a collection of folk songs and more as a turning point in American television. The Who's explosion remained its most visible accident, but the deeper story concerned the material viewers were prevented from seeing. The explosion remained on television, but another Smothers Brothers performance disappeared completely. The story of that censored song reveals how one broadcast forced CBS to reverse course.